Do you want a weekly dose of energy and marketing tips to grow your business? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Lisa Pezik Show, a podcast that empowers entrepreneurs to heal and be heard, the permission to pivot, and the tools to design a life you love.
Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Lisa Pezik Show. So excited to dive in today with a fellow obsessive creative brains. We're going to dive in today into your marketing, into your messaging. How do you get people's eyeballs and attention on your work, on your business, on the things that you're doing? We all know that it's a beautiful thing to have a variety of places where you can spend your marketing dollars and your campaigns and your money and your time and your energy. So today, with my friend, Joseph Wilkins. Joseph, hello and welcome to the show.
Hey, Lisa, it's good to be here.
Oh my goodness. So he is going to break down for us, how do we make our videos go viral? How do we make sure that we are making you or your company money, that you're getting that return on investment, or you're at least getting eyeballs and it's catching attention, and that's going to lead wherever it's going to lead for you. So Joseph founded Pro Creative Studios 20 years ago, where his team produced infomercials, TV commercials, and corporate videos. You've directed thousands of campaigns for clients, including the big ones: Google, LinkedIn, McDonald's, Goldman Sachs, Chevrolet, Home Depot, and other mega brands. And from this is where Funny Sales Videos in 2017 was birthed and born. So take us through that first, Joseph. Like, how did you get into doing this kind of work and really kind of cracking the code on what gets eyeballs and attention and funny viral videos? Funny is your shtick. So tell us about that.
So the funny thing is, 20 years ago, when I started this business, when people would call us and say, hey, we saw this really funny Super Bowl spot, or we saw this really funny ad on this was before the days of YouTube, I'm dating myself, but they would say, I want to do something funny. And we would say, sorry, we don't do that. Because you have to do it right or not at all. That's my philosophy. Because if you don't, you'll end up looking silly. And I think that's even worse. There's a conversation, is it better to be ignored or to look silly? I would rather have neither. I would rather really, impress clients, put a message out there, but most importantly, get engagement, get liked. And that obviously is going, if you do it right, it's going to lead to sales. It's not about being funny. It's about the middle part of our name, which is sales. So anyway, back to your question, how did we get started? So I started right out of college. I studied graphic design. My very first job out of college was a graphic designer for a marketing agency. And this was right when the internet was, again, 20 years ago, the internet was barely out of dial-up, right? And so people were starting to experiment with video. And so I got sent on a bunch of training courses to learn video by myself. And eventually I started to do it for my job. And I also picked up some freelance clients on the side. And our very first project that really helped me quit my corporate job and start Pro Creative Studios, which was exclusively video marketing, was the Little Giant Ladder infomercial. A 30-minute long show. We were one of 3 production companies that produced that show. But it did over $200 million in sales. Just blew my mind how successful a really good, compelling infomercial on a big audience, right? Television back in the day. And we'll talk about how that's changed today. When a lot of people were watching broadcast TV, we got huge sales. And so for the first 15 years, that's really all we focused on was traditional kind of television infomercials, long form and short form. And then, clients wanted to put them on YouTube and put them on their website. So traditional corporate videos. The problem, as I mentioned, is that I don't know about you, but 20 years ago, I watched TV every day. I cannot remember the last time I watched real live flip through the channels style TV.
Gone.
I just don't do it.
Me neither.
And so our clients were seeing their results go down and down and down. They weren't spending any less producing these commercials, this content, but there just weren't the eyeballs on it to justify what we were charging them. And so we really came to a point about 5 years ago when, as you mentioned, when we started Funny Sales Videos, we did it out of necessity because we were going to go out of business. We just couldn't keep up with the returns that our clients used to get. And that's right around the time, I don't know if you remember, that's right around the time there were a few really big viral style, and we'll talk about that word viral. It's maybe a little misleading the way that most people think about it. But there were these huge, funny videos that went quote unquote viral. Dollar Shave Club, Squatty Potty, Poopery, Purple Mattress. These videos that just went like wildfire throughout the internet. And most importantly, they kind of tricked people because they felt like a sketch comedy piece that they would want to watch. But then halfway through, they realized, oh, this is actually a commercial. But I'm so engaged in this video that I've actually consumed the message, and now I actually want that product. And they were leading to, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars in sales from these kinds of videos. And the number of calls kept coming in. Hey, we want something like that. We want something like that. And so eventually we said, okay, we gotta crack this nut. We gotta figure out how to do what these other much larger agencies are doing. So the two problems that we had were, number one, we did a little research and we found that many of these videos had cost over $1 million to produce. Just really, really high production value. And the other thing is, you know, we realized that we needed to find a team of really, really, really good writers, because that's the basis of any good video, is a good script. Now, there are all kinds of different marketing videos that you guys should be doing. And I always say marketing is like a salad, all different kinds of ingredients. So you still want your crappy looking videos from the CEO that don't have to look like $1 million. But what I'm talking about is a top of funnel video, a first impression video, a video that will take a customer from knowing nothing about your business to 3 minutes later, which may seem like a long time, but we'll talk about in a minute how if you keep people's attention, you can demand that kind of watch time. But 3 minutes later, they want to click below to go to the next step, whether that's to buy, to fill out a lead gen form, whether it's B2B, B2C, doesn't matter. And so we tried to figure out, how do we become the company that can do those kinds of videos on a micro budget, you know, millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's what other customers or companies were doing. So we figured out, how do we do it for tens of thousands of dollars? And that's basically what we've done for the past 5 years. And I'll finish off with a quick compare and contrast, because I think this really underscores how powerful these kinds of videos are. Before we assembled our team of writers and launched funnysalesvideos.com, the biggest video view that we had had online, with, again, 15 years of history with some pretty big companies, biggest video view was 100,000 views, which we thought was pretty good on YouTube. We're about, where I'm sitting right now, we're about to hit on our biggest campaign to date, we're close to hitting 100 million views.
Wow.
And more importantly, you know, millions and millions of dollars in direct sales. So that's a long way of saying, after 20 years of working in almost any kind of video production, as far as marketing is concerned, nothing's ever made our clients more return on investment than these kinds of fun, engaging videos.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I find with us, even as a marketing company. People have the budget and they're willing to spend it. They just want to make sure that somewhere, it doesn't even have to be an immediate thing, but somewhere down the line, they're going to actually be able to say, yes, from that video, I got X, Y, and Z, or I met this person and it paid off in one way or another. And I think that's the biggest thing when you have so many people you can choose from. It's like, what results do you get, people? Because when it comes down to it, it actually comes down to the tangible results when it comes to marketing.
And that's a huge point, because let me be very clear. These kinds of videos that we do are not branding videos. They're not the kinds of videos that you watch and then afterwards you say, well, that was nice. What am I supposed to do? No, these are very, very specific when you watch these videos, you know exactly what you're supposed to do, and it leads you into the sales funnel. It doesn't complete the sales cycle, but it at least either captures your information, gets you to sign up for a free trial, gets you to sign up for a low cost offer. It gets immediate results.
I love how you talked about marketing as a salad. Like that's such a, or a pie. I like to talk about it as like a pie, the same kind of thing. It's like you need those different pieces and toppings, and you know, it's never that one thing.
Right.
I'm sure you can see they may have that great video, but if the rest of it is crap, it all does have to work together and work. And this is just one vital piece of it. So time frame. People always ask me, how long, you know, should my videos be? And I agree, when you put out great content, you can get away with going longer. I mean, I was even sharing before this, we could go 45 minutes today if we wanted to, because my listeners know that it's great content that we're putting out. You can train people to go longer, but what is there a gold standard of how long these kinds of videos should be?
So I should just acknowledge right up front that my mentors were the Harmon brothers. I've been through their Harmon Brothers mentorship program, and the thing that they say is that a video should be as long as it needs to be to communicate all of the points that somebody needs to hear to make a sale and entertain them, but not a minute shorter. Now, that doesn't give you a very specific answer, but it tells you it should be as short as it can be without leaving out anything that somebody needs in order to make a sale. So my other answer is it should be around, our videos typically average between 3 to 4 minutes for the long version, and then about half that length for the shorter version. And I'm of the mindset that people don't stop watching because it's too long.
Agreed.
Netflix is still around.
Agreed.
Right? People are still watching long content format. They stop watching because they get bored. They stop watching because it's irrelevant. They stop watching because it doesn't add value. They stop watching because it's not entertaining. So if you can use those bags of tricks to, number one, grab people's attention, and we can talk about how we do that. Number two, tell them a relevant story where they say, oh, that's kind of like me. That's kind of my problem. That's something that actually is useful to me. They'll sit forward a little bit more. And then you've got to keep rehooking their attention. You can't ever let it get bored. And that's, you know, some of the steps that we can go through and talk about how we specifically do that. And more importantly, how your audience could do that, you know, themselves without even hiring a company like ours.
Yeah, let's dive into that. I know you have like this 8-step formula, and I know my listeners really love to take notes and they want to go do something different. And most of them typically try it themselves. And then if it doesn't go well, they're like, okay, now I need to hire somebody. So for those that, or I shouldn't say that, there are some like us, like me, who's like, I want to stay in my lane. I'll just hire you and off we go. But for those that want to do it themselves, what are those 8 steps or those things you should be thinking about?
So I'll start out with 2 qualifiers and then I'll run into the 8 steps. Number 1 is you got to think about, why are people watching where they're watching? In other words, back in the day when we were on TV, we knew exactly where you were. You were on TV and we probably knew which channel you were. We knew you were sitting back and basically wasting time. This is a very different format. We know that people are, in the most part, our videos are run on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, some TikTok, but those are mainly the platforms that we see success on. Facebook, incidentally, is still our big, even with all the privacy updates and everything else, everyone's saying the sky's falling down. There's still, in my opinion, no more powerful platform to be able to target your audience and deliver a message than Facebook. And so you have to say, why are they there in the first place? And the answer is they're there to be entertained. They're there to kill some time. They're there to have a break. And so the closer your content can come to mimicking why they've come in the first place, the more likely you are to be able to engage with them. So that's the overall premise. The minute clients start, you know, when I'm working with them, the minute clients start saying, yeah, but you got to put more sales stuff in. You got to, we got to hit all of our benefits. You got to talk more about it. That's when we're going to lose people, because you can't look at it as you have to listen to what I'm saying. No, you have to think about it. I have to earn the right to be able to tell you anything about my company. So before I start thinking about selling to you, I have to grab your attention. I have to entertain you. I have to make you like the character in that video, and then they'll forgive it when they come across a little bit with some sales pitches. But there has to be this great balance of 80% entertainment, hookiness, interest, and then 20% sales. Yeah. So that's kind of the framework for what I'm about to run through. And the other thing is, you mentioned a couple times the word viral. Let's really quickly qualify. You can be the funniest guy in the world. You can make the most imaginative video and put it on the internet and nobody will see it. This is not about creating a video that you spend all of your money producing and then forget that it has to be fueled, just like a car. You have to fuel these videos with paid ads. I kind of use the analogy of a vending machine, Lisa. If I was to build you a vending machine full of $100 bills that cost $20 to use, how many times would you want to use that machine? That's what these are about. It's like a snowball. You have to start it rolling with paid ads. And even, our campaigns that have over 100 million views, almost our biggest campaign, maybe 5 to 10% of those views were quote unquote organically viral views by people liking and sharing and commenting. You can't build a business around guessing. You can't build a, sales strategy around a flash in the pan viral hit. Then you have to scale up real quickly. And then, you have to fire everyone because there's no sustainable business model. These videos are repeatable, predictable. They're much more of a business model than just a one-time hit. So just keep that in mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is a little bit like the, you say something to your child and they don't listen. And then like the coach says it and you're like, that's what I've been saying this whole time.
Yeah. I'm preaching to the choir.
Everything that you said is exactly what we teach people. And I hope that you had a different spin on the way that you explained it. And I hope that listeners, if you didn't catch that, go back and rewind this and go back and listen to exactly what he said, because that was 3 to 5 minutes of marketing gold. That's like the foundation before you do anything else, that advice that you just gave. And being a marketing agency, 110%, you are 110% completely accurate and correct. So thank you for teeing that up that way, because if they don't come into it with that kind of mindset, it does, like you said, it doesn't matter these 8 steps or where we take them next. They have to understand that piece first. So that was beautiful. Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome. Okay. So let's run through the 8 steps. Yeah. Step 1. And again, I'm probably preaching to the choir to most people, but you'd be surprised how many agent or how many clients we sit down and talk about this step and they're like, oh, we've never thought about that before. But it's doing your research. It's really understanding before you do any kind of production, before you set pen to paper or type out any single characters on your keyboard, you've got to understand, who are you talking to? Yeah. And the more specific you can get, the more your video is going to resonate with that target audience. It's like if I was to write a letter, a very personal letter to somebody, then walk to the mailbox and then decide who to address it to. I mean, who would do that? Yet that's what we do with our marketing. We write, based on what we think the product does or why we decided to start the business. We don't write to what are people actually saying about why they like it? What are people actually saying about why they continue to buy it, or why they refer it? And the number one way you can get that kind of granular detail is by listening to your customers. Don't talk, just listen. And a great way to do that, the Harmon brothers teach how to go and read at least 100 customer reviews before you really start to make good inference about why your customers buy your product.
Yes.
Now, if you don't have 100 customer reviews, go look at your competitors' 100 customer reviews, or the closest thing that you can find, or send out surveys to your existing customers, or literally just stop people in the street if your product is, the kind that the average person uses, and really try to create a list. In about 3 minutes, we can get about 5 key selling points across. Now that's a prioritized list. So number 1, it's going to get mentioned a lot more than number 5, but there are certain things that people need to know about your product and service to go from knowing nothing about it to I'm at least going to click below and find out more. And the more research you can do that's based on fact, not fiction, the better you're going to be. I love it when a customer comes to me and they have a customer avatar document. Everyone should have that.
Yes.
The more detailed, the better. Name that person. Talk about what radio stations they listen to, what they order at Starbucks, what their day is like, what problems they encounter. I mean, the more detailed you can get, the more informed this script writing process is going to be, because now you're writing that letter to a name, not an imaginary ethereal concept.
Exactly. I always say when you try to speak to everyone, you speak to no one. So you have to know exactly and go. People are afraid to go super niche. They're afraid, but what about this person? And what about that person? But I always say you have to get it to work. You have to get results before you can scale. You have to have something that converts, or a process that converts, before you worry about all those other things. So I love that.
Totally. Yes. And those other people are still going to listen, and they'll probably resonate if they're your secondary target, but nothing is as powerful as really hitting the mark. And I'll give you an illustration to prove why. When we launched our campaign for True Earth Eco Strips, it's a laundry detergent that appeals to people that care about the environment, which should be all of us, right? It's not, we didn't super niche it down to just the extremists. We wanted the average, person who does laundry, who kind of cares about the planet, to really buy this product, because it doesn't have plastic. It comes in these compostable strips. So anyway, when we created that, we did a lot of research and we created our customer avatar. And I mean, the first video that we did got, within the first week, I mean, it was like 10 million views, off the charts. It now has over 50 million views. And number 1 comment that we saw on Facebook time and time again was, that character, that's me, or that feels like me, or I want to be friends with her. We literally had people that were saying, who is this actress? I want to be friends with her. We ended up bringing the actress back to do these behind the scenes video, talking to these fans, because we got such an overwhelming response. And the reason why is because we literally stole lines from your customer reviews and wrote them into the script. So it was as if the customers were themselves talking in the video. That's the level of granularity that really hits the target. So anyway, I go into a lot more detail on each of these steps in my free ebook that you can download. But step 1 is do your research, do the marketing grunt work so that everything else is built on a solid foundation.
Amen, amen.
Step 2 is the fun part, brainstorming. Now, this terrifies most people, but let me break it down into a pretty simple thing that anyone listening can do. Put on a piece of paper or put on a whiteboard or wherever it is, a list of 50 bad ideas, terrible ideas. Don't judge them. Now, let me qualify. What's an idea? So in our world, a funny sales video typically has one main character that represents the customer and a big problem that they're trying to solve, right? Just those 2 things. Don't worry about anything else from now. So brainstorm fit. Now think about your product or service right now. What's the problem that it solves? Now come up with a list of 50 crazy characters. They could be as outlandish as you want, or they could be as, pedestrian as you want. Just make a list. So one could be, a superhero. Let's say you sell, I don't know, I'm looking around here. Actually, this is a good example. So these are beef sticks. We just did a video for these guys, Paleo Valley beef sticks. They're for people that really care about what they put in their bodies. They're snacks on the go that are healthy for you, right? So let's just brainstorm for a second. We could have, a muscle man, right? Some big bodybuilder guy, an Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of character. And He's sick and tired of drinking bad tasting protein shit. I mean, I'm just making this up off the top of my head. There's one idea. Let's go with another idea. It could be, I don't know, a nun in a convent that isn't allowed to leave. And so she's grateful that they ship these. I mean, these are awful ideas, but let's just throw them out. Let's keep throwing them out until you've filled a page of 50 bad ideas. Because guess what? A bad idea will at least trigger a good idea. And I promise you, you won't put out 50 bad ideas. There'll be some good ones in there. But just the very exercise of suspending judgment. And ideally you want to do this as a team, right? And we'll talk in a minute about how you'd build a team. The worst thing you can do is have people in that team that will criticize. You don't want any of that. No judgment zone, bad ideas encouraged. And so what we do is once we've filled that page, we'll typically boil it down to the 5 top ideas that we all kind of get a chuckle out of. And then we'll spend a little bit more time and we'll maybe script out a paragraph or 2 about those 5 concepts. And then as an agency, we'll present those to the client, and between us, we'll decide which is the hero that we're actually going to take into step 3, which is the scripting. Right. So this is where we actually begin fleshing out what is this video. And all of these steps are like a house. You can't jump from one to another. You got to start with your foundation, then your framing, then yada, yada, yada. So scripting, there's actually 2 parts of the scripting process. Number 1 is your marketing copy points that you should have established in step 1, right? Those 5 biggest reasons that not you're deciding, but your customers are deciding are the reasons why they buy your product or service. Now, you also may need 1 or 2 objections that you have to overcome, because no matter how pretty you paint the picture, if customers online are moaning about why your product is too expensive or why it takes too long to ship to you, if there's, you know, a significant amount of noise, or in those comments, there's a lot of people saying, yeah, I like it, but if you can't fix that, you have to address it. Nobody's going to buy with big concerns in the back of their mind. So you have to hit it head on. So if your product's too expensive, you got to justify why. Turn that weakness into a strength. It's more expensive because we take the time to build it right. And so you only have to buy once as opposed to 3 of our competitors that are going to break within the first week. And so the price really is less expensive because you don't have to buy 3. Or you can do an indirect comparison. Purple Mattress is a great example. You know, they've got $1,000 bed. Well, that's way more expensive than the $300 one I can get at Walmart or Sam's Club. But how much does it cost to go to the chiropractor once a month? Right? Or you got to figure out what are the either direct or indirect ways to overcome these objections and put those into the video as well. So there's your sales script. It's still not a story. It's just the copy points that you know you have to hit on. Then you need to bring in, your audience should probably go watch some of the videos at funnysalesvideos.com to get a good understanding of what we're talking about here. But our scripts have 8 writers on every script. Wow. We have the marketing copy point writer. Then we bring in the narrative storyteller. So that's a creative writer. And that's the person that basically tells the story, right? And most of our videos start with, you know, big attention grabbing hook, telling the problem, introducing the solution, bringing in a call to action, establishing credibility, and then overcoming objections. I mean, there's this structure to it that a really good storyteller will be able to create an entertaining story. Now, this doesn't mean you have to have these employees on your payroll. There are tons of websites out there, and this is how we started out doing it, where really good creative people that work for very established companies, they want to earn a little extra money on the side. So what do? They freelance. So go out and look for them. The number 1 site is Fiverr. There's Upwork. There's tons of these out there. I'm sure you've used some similar sites in the past, but that's the way that we do it. So that's step 3, writing the actual script. Now it's not funny yet.
It's
entertaining.
What are they looking for? Like a storytelling writer, or like who is the exact person that they're searching for?
I would start with a creative writer.
Creative
Okay.
writer. Okay.
And what I would do is I would send them, examples of the kinds of videos that we're talking about. Obviously, you can go to our website, Harmon Brothers website. Chamber Media has a lot of really good ones. I mean, there's Dr. Squatch. There's really, really good ones out there. In fact, there's some YouTube channels that are just devoted to these kinds of videos, but send them a few examples and they should be able to take that and create a script outline.
Yep.
However, these aren't comedians, right?
Yes.
These are just entertaining storytellers. So step 4, once you've got a script that goes over your copy points, tells a story, has a journey, creates the character, that's when we bring in at least 5 to 6, hear me, professional comedy writers. Remember, we said nothing's worse than than trying to be funny and looking silly. So what we do, again, and these are all people that I've never physically met, most of them. They are in other states. A lot of them actually are stand-up comedians that literally for their job is traveling from state to state, doing stand-up in clubs. So during the day, what are they doing? They're at airports, they're wasting time. And so they like to fill that time with money, opportunities to write for us. And so they're actually very willing to take on projects. Now, they're not telling stories, they're just adding in jokes. Comedians are very good at that. They're not storytellers, but they can take an existing script and say, oh, it would be better if you changed this line to this, or added this joke here, or, punch it up with this visual, or something happens. And, when you have a base of, 8 or so people all contributing, and the way that we do it is on a shared document, right? Yeah. So no one person is writing the script, they're just commenting on it. And then my role in the company is I'm the creative director that kind of decides, okay, what makes it to the script, what doesn't. And sometimes the funniest jokes in the world have to get cut because it's not about being funny, it's about selling something. So if it detracts from that, it has to go.
Yes.
So that's step number 4, is adding the comedy. And again, we get our comedians from Fiverr, we get them by, watching real stand-up comedy and approaching people after and saying, would you like to come work for us? But the wisdom of the crowd of that many writers is really the secret sauce between a video that's okay because one person wrote it, as experienced as they may be, and kind of like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the best lifeline is always ask the audience.
Yeah, and it just, brings home the point that you can't do it alone. Like so many people, I can't tell you, because even copywriting is a part of what we do in our agency. And so many people are like, oh, no one can write my content. No one can speak like me. No, and I'm like, that is a limiting belief. That is something you had a bad experience, or that is something that you're just too close to it. That's actually the opposite. You need other eyeballs. You need other perspectives. You need fresh views and fresh perspectives. And as you said, you take, it's not that one person is right and everybody else is wrong. You take the best of what everybody has to contribute. And I love that. So if anyone here is listening, thinking you have to do this all, you're going, oh my God, here's these, 5 out of 8 steps I'm going to go and do. I don't want you to input it that way. I'm going to go find help of the experts or I'm going to maybe do 1 or 2 and I'm going to fill those other 3 roles with somebody else.
Absolutely.
You got to get help and stay in your zone of genius. Especially the comedy part. I agree. If you're trying to be funny, there's nothing worse than someone trying to be funny. Or we feel that as an audience. You feel when it's forced. You feel when it's inauthentic. I hate when people say things like, well, I'm going to be transparent with you, or I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm like, as opposed to
what you said last week was a lie.
Were you lying to me all along then? So when people try too hard, you feel it. And I'm sure you can feel that with being funny and eye-catching stuff, right?
Yes. And you mentioned one thing I want to pick up on.
Yeah.
A lot of people listening will probably, especially, I hear this a lot from B2B companies that want to look professional, don't want to look silly. There is lots of different kinds of humor. You have to respect your audience. So a video that we produce for a, enterprise software SaaS business that's talking to a CXO has to be completely different humor to a video that we create for a teenage skin acne cream product. Right? Those are two completely different audiences. So what we're constantly doing is also testing it. That's actually step 7, but I'll highlight it here. We're testing at every step of the process. Does this hit the audience? Does this resonate? So one thing that we love to do where possible is to have a small group of our customer avatar. So we'll often ask our customers, can you send this to your 10 top customers? Get feedback from us. Now, you're not looking for individual opinions. You're looking for trends. So if 2 out of the 10 say, I don't like it, but 8 people say they love it, this is polarizing content. You're never going to get everyone to love it, but you still don't want to be too edgy and offend people. And, obviously you don't want to get banned on Facebook for doing anything racy. So we try to keep everything very, very safe, but clever humor. And so you have to talk to who is it that's going to watch this video. So I have to get in the mind of a CEO, or my writers have to get into the mind of a CEO. And we will choose different writers based on who the audience is. And definitely test before you make the mistake of producing something that really doesn't talk to who it is that you're talking to.
Yeah.
Okay, so step 5, I'll start going a little quicker. Step 5 is the production. Now, you would think as somebody that's owned a video production studio for 20 years, I would say the most important thing about production is getting the best lights and the best camera and the best sound. As much as I do think that is important, and I'll talk about that in a second, that's not the most important part. The most important part of production is casting. It's finding the right actor or actress to be the hero of this video. And I'll just back up for a second, back to the idea of a salad. I totally agree that the CEO has a time and place to be on camera. This is not it. This kind of video, to deliver comedy, you have to have a professional actor, preferably somebody who is experienced doing improv comedy. A lot of people will say, well, what about the Dollar Shave Club? That was the CEO of the company. And what they don't realize was that guy was a professional stand-up comedian from, I think it was from New York. And he just used that experience. And so by all means, if you're listening, you're a CEO and you have years of experience doing improv comedy, feel free to ignore this advice, but don't be your spokesperson for this kind of video. The next video in the funnel where we retarget you with another message or an unboxing video or a customer testimonial video, those are fine to go less produced. But this kind of a video, to get the eyeballs, to grab attention and keep it, you need a professional in front of the camera.
Okay, I have a question though. I hope I can ask this.
Sure.
So did you see what happened? This was probably maybe 2 years ago when Peloton came out. And it was around the Christmas time, and they had did you hear the backlash that happened with their marketing? So Peloton was trying to sell their bikes, and they cast some little.
I did hear about this. Yes.
And they were like, oh, why would you cast this tiny little thing? People that were truly trying to lose weight and get healthy were very offended that they casted this beautiful, skinny model on the Peloton bike. So how do you balance that? I mean, in a world where, someone might watch this and go, I don't like, Joseph's yellow shirt. That makes me angry. Or I don't like Lisa's black shirt. I don't like her necklace. In a world where people get so offended so easily. Right. But then at the same time, listening again to their audience, how do you make sure you cast the right actor or actress?
That's a great question. So here's the process that we go through. And this is probably one of the power tips that your listeners should turn the volume up and really pay attention. Casting, and I am going to get back to your question. Casting doesn't cost anything. Actors, by their very nature, will audition for you for free. Now, you might be surprised to hear that when we produce a video, we will typically only pick our actor after rejecting about 100 other people.
Wow.
Let that sink in. Now, let me tell you how we do that. We will go to the local talent agencies. We're here in Salt Lake City. We have a number of very good agencies. Most major cities have plenty of them. If you're in a smaller city, you may have to get some, from slightly out of town. But we will go and we will send an email to the casting agents at these companies, and we'll say, here's kind of who we're looking for. Don't be so specific when you're writing. Don't think in your mind, and it's almost the opposite of what I said earlier. Yes, you have a customer avatar, you have a target, but unless there's really good reason, never say things like, she's going to be African American, or she's going to be a blonde, or she's going to be fat, or she's going to be skinny, or she's going to throw all of that out. You really don't care what they look like as much as how they perform, how they feel, how they come across. And back to your point, in today's world of authenticity, I mean, yes, we're looking for aspirational in some cases, but you got to be inclusive. You got to make that person look and feel like the customer.
Yeah.
And so you want to be as real in casting as possible. And that's back to what I said. Once we go through 100 people's profiles and we're looking at them, we'll ask these agencies, each of them, send me, 30 people that you think could audition for this role that fits within this very loose boundary. Then what we'll do is we'll look at their profile, we'll watch their demo reel. And then we'll pick about 20 of them and we'll say, okay, we want to do a lot. We want you to audition. We'll send them about a paragraph or two of the script because we don't want to give them too much. And then we'll have them submit an audition tape, which is just like what we're doing now, right? Every actor in the world, especially after COVID, has a place in their home that's set up to do auditions. So they will send you 20 ready to watch auditions and we will watch through those. And we're not looking, we're feeling. We're using our gut, but also will involve that customer, small group of target customers. And we'll say, which one do you like? Right? So you're getting feedback. So you're hopefully insuring yourself against the backlashes that may come if you go too far in extreme one way or the other. Now, again, back to my point, you're never going to please everyone. These videos are, by their very nature, they're edgy, they're disruptive, they're different. They're not safe in the sense that, they're so generic that they're forgettable. So there's a fine line, but once we've got our 20 auditions back, we will typically ask 3 or 4 of them that we're just like, yes, she feels right, or he feels right. We'll ask them back for either a live in our studio, come in and do an audition, or if they're out of town, we'll do them over Zoom because we know they're going to fly in for the audition. But what we're looking for there is, can you do this line faster? Can you do it slower? Can you put the emphasis on this word? Can you put a breath here? And I'm looking, are they coachable? Are they directable? Do they add something in the spontaneity of the moment? Your script should get better as we go through this process. Your actors should bring something to the script that's not on the page.
Agreed.
So it's always a process that's adding layer on layer to why the final videos feel and look and sound as good as they do, because every step we're just making it better and better and better.
I love that guidance by the intuition and by the gut feeling versus on what you're seeing, because that happens with your audience too. They might not exactly know why they want to look away or they're just not interested anymore, but they feel that too if something isn't right. And I just love that. I also love just how you put so much time and attention to vet into this process that by the time it gets ready to go out, it's been tested, it's been run through the mill by however many people, that it needs to go through. And that's actually one of the pieces because we run ads in our company. And that's one thing, we turn people away if they haven't tested. I'm like, I'm not going to test on your marketing dollars. I'm not going to blow something up and put it out there and run Facebook ads and market it if you don't have this much time and attention. Well, you put in extra, which is incredible, but that kind of time and attention behind the scenes. I just love how you're shedding light on just how many people and how many layers it goes through to get it right. Because I think
Yes.
sometimes we put a lot of pressure, or companies put a lot of pressure that they have to get it right and get it right quickly and get it right the first time. And they don't realize all this behind the scenes stuff that you're talking about that happens. It's like when people say, I want to have a Super Bowl commercial. It's like they've been planning for a year.
Yes.
Doing
Yes.
that. They didn't just create that Super Bowl commercial like a month before the Super Bowl. That's
So
a
true.
year and probably a bajillion-dollar budget. But in the sense that there was a big process that came down to that 30-second commercial that you're seeing. And I love how you're shedding the light on this process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
okay.
let me move on to step 6,
Yeah,
and I'll probably validate what you just said. Many clients are surprised when they hear our most popular package that we do. So we offer 3 different packages: a good, better, and best. Our middle package, our clients get 32 versions of the video.
Wow. Now, do they
Because
find
it's
that
all about
overwhelming?
testing.
Do they find that overwhelming, or are they
No,
like?
so let me break it down. Here's how we arrive at that number 32. So the most, the most important part of your video is the first 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
If you don't grab people's attention, if you don't earn their attention visually, because nobody has the sound on anymore, 80% of people are watching your ads with the sound off. So it has to be visually almost overloading to the point that it piques curiosity, and people have to turn the sound on to figure out what's going on here. The way that we do that is with very, very different visuals. So obviously that comes from running a production company for 20 years. My cameras and equipment are going to look so much different than every other video that's shot with an iPhone. So that's number one way to capture somebody's attention. The second thing is what is actually on the screen. The more disruptive, the more curiosity piquing, the better. We throw up graphics. We never put out videos without subtitles graphically designed. Don't ever let Facebook do your titles. They'll screw it up. You got to make it yourself so that you can control the experience. So how do we get to 32? We film 3 completely different opening hooks. So the rest of the video is the same, but the first 5 to 10 seconds are completely different. So we're ABC testing which one gets the longer watch through. Then we're testing 3 completely different offers. So one could be, click now and buy one, get one free. One could be click now and get 25% off. One could be buy one, get one free and get a 30-day free trial. I'm making these up, but now you have 3 opens, 3 offers. So there's 9 versions of the video. We're going to do a full length version and a half length version. Now we're up to 18 versions of the video. Then you never want to upload a widescreen video to Facebook. Your phone, as much as we would love to, nobody is watching your video like this. For those of you listening, horizontally. Everyone watches it vertically. So you have to crop your video to be at least square to take up as much of the screen as you can. Some people go even more extreme. We crop it to square, and then we do a widescreen version for YouTube and for desktop. So mobile is square, subtitles burnt in. Widescreen for YouTube doesn't have subtitles because most everybody has the sound on for YouTube. So now we've doubled our videos from 18 to 32. And that is the difference between going to Vegas and putting everything on black 32 when you got one shot of winning, and having 32 different versions to test through and understand which one is performing best. And that really takes it from guessing to having science behind before you open your budget and spend a bunch of money on a video that may or may not convert.
Yeah, because is that kind of how you bust that objection when people say like, okay, Joseph, I want to hire your company, I want to do this. Like, what's your guarantee? Or is that how you?
There are no guarantees. Anyone that tells you I guarantee this will work is either lying or deluding themselves.
Yeah, I agree. We always say that there's no guarantee. That's kind of how we bust that objection. We're like, there is no guarantee. However, here's our highly vetted process that we've tried and tested.
Exactly.
Over
we can show you past result after past result, and I don't want to pitch ourselves, but there are case study after case study that I can show you. But even every time there's a brand new campaign, I have to say, that's something that's happened with other clients. All I can pretty much guarantee is that if we follow these steps, show me what you've done in the past, and I'll guarantee that we'll get better results than that, because you haven't been doing these steps to get you the kinds of results that we've got from other clients. That's really the only guarantee that I can, ethically give any customer.
Yeah, I love this. And I'm so sad that we are like at the end of our time. Time flew so fast, but
download the ebook and read the last 2 steps.
I was just going to say, I want to make sure that we get the link for your ebook. So listeners, and as you said, you go more in depth and give a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
But even with this was a hugely value-packed episode that for sure, listener, if you want to go back to this, you want to revisit this, I would encourage you to go and look at the funny videos and look at it first. This is what I always like to do. I look at it first as a consumer, like what made me laugh, what hook grabbed me. And then I look at it as if, ooh, how did you strategically, as you talked about, you broke down these 8 steps and these pieces for us. But I often do that when I go and I see people selling from stage that I know that like crush it. I'm like, ooh, what are they saying? How are they saying that? Where are they putting that? How are they overcoming this objection? First, I listen as the listener, and then I listen to kind of digest and dissect the process. So thank you in those 8 steps for dissecting that process for us and taking through how you do this. I feel like I have to have you back on because you have such a wealth of information. We could keep going on all of this. But I want to make sure that they get your ebook. I will make sure I have all your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your website, your ebook. I have all of that. I will put it in the show notes. And I have a feeling you're going to be around in business for a long, long time, because that is that edutainment and that just entertainment value is what is really trending and working now. So listener, I would encourage you, either A, hire Joseph if you can, or B, implement these processes that you shared today, because that is why we're on social, as you said. Why that is what we are. Nobody's looking, like there was 3% of people are actually looking to purchase something. All their 97% are just browsing, they make that purchase because something emotionally moves them and it grabs them in that moment.
You got to disrupt them. That's what it's all about. And you can get everything that you just mentioned. It's real simple. Just go to funnysalesvideos.com. That's where you can download the ebook. That's also where you can watch these videos. And it's also where you can fill out the form. If you want to have a chat with me, we can set up a Zoom to brainstorm ideas for a campaign for you.
Nice. Thank you so much for being here today with me, Joseph. I super appreciate you.
Been fun, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners. I know you're so busy, especially as this episode is coming out in the December month, the holiday month. But I hope you take the time to listen to this in its entirety. If you're here, you have. Go back and again, revisit it. Don't have this be a once and done. Put this in your learning plan that you're going back and implementing, even just one of these steps that Joseph taught today. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you again next time on The Lisa Pezik Show.
You've been listening to The Lisa Pezik Show. Let's connect more at www.lisapezik.com.